There is a truth about women that most men never learn until it's too late. A truth that shakes them, breaks them, and forces them to rebuild themselves from the ground up. Women do not respect the man who argues the loudest. They do not respect the man who begs for clarity. They do not respect the man who tries to force the connection back to how it used to be. They may feel sympathy. They may feel affection. They may even feel guilt. But respect is reserved for only one kind of man. The man who can walk away peacefully, not angrily, not emotionally, not dramatically, but quietly, calmly, decisively. A woman feels a man's peaceful departure more deeply than any speech, any tears, or any proof of love. Because the peaceful man is not reacting, he is choosing. And a man who chooses his peace over her chaos becomes a man she cannot categorize, cannot control, and cannot forget. His departure carries a weight she does not understand, but cannot ignore because it exposes something she was not ready to confront. He wanted her, but he did not need her. Most men collapse when a woman pulls away. They chase harder. They explain more. They overinvest. They try to prove their worth, fix the tension, feel the silence, and rescue the connection from its own imbalance. And in that desperate effort, they become invisible. Because nothing kills respect faster than a man who abandons himself to keep someone who isn't choosing him. But the man who can walk away peacefully without guilt, without anger, without fear, speaks a different kind of language. His silence becomes a message. His absence becomes a why peaceful departure commands respect mirror. His departure becomes a lesson. Women feel the difference instantly. They realize this is not a man anchored to their approval. This is not a man controlled by their affection. This is not a man who negotiates his value to remain close. This is a man who can love deeply and still choose himself. Walking away peacefully is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength a man can show because it requires emotional discipline, self-respect, clarity, and courage. It means he understands something most men don't. Losing her is not the worst thing. Losing himself is this calm exit, forces her to step into the emotional silence she created. It confronts her with the truth she tried to avoid. It removes the excuses she relied on. It exposes the imbalance she contributed to. And it shows her the one thing she never expected to see. A man who will not fight for a place in someone's life at the cost of losing his own identity. The cold truth is this. Women only respect the man who chooses peace over proximity, the man who leaves when he is not valued, the man who stays only where he is met equally. And the moment she realizes you can walk away peacefully is the moment she stops underestimating you forever. Before we start, a quick reminder, the real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood. A private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you Section 1. The power of peaceful departure, join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits. Just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once. Grow forever. Let's dive in. Section number 1, the power of peaceful departure. The first thing every man must understand is that a woman's deepest respect is not triggered by your effort, your loyalty, your kindness, or your consistency. All of those matter, but they are not what elevate you in her eyes. A woman respects the man who displays emotional sovereignty, the man who can walk away without trembling, without threatening, without collapsing, and without creating chaos to prove a point. A peaceful exit is the clearest sign that you do not fear loss, and a man who does not fear loss becomes a man she cannot forget. A woman is not moved by desperation. She is moved by discipline. She is not impressed by a man who tries harder. She is impressed by a man who knows when trying no longer serves him. She is not drawn to a man who doubles his effort. She is drawn to a man who withdraws his effort when it is not honored. Most men cling to a situation that is slipping away. They feel the emotional distance and immediately respond with panic. They increase their messages. They intensify their attention. They question themselves. They reshape their identity to match her shifting mood. but all this does is confirm to her that he lacks the spine needed to anchor a relationship. His fear of losing her outweighs his respect for himself, and once she senses that imbalance, her respect begins to fade. But the man who can step back calmly, the man who withdraws with a steady heart and a quiet mind, triggers something entirely different. He signals that he is not dependent on her for emotional stability. He shows that he does not place her above his own peace. He reveals a kind of strength she rarely sees, the strength to let go without breaking. That strength touches something deep in a woman's psychology. It destabilizes her assumptions. It challenges her ego. It forces her to confront a reality she didn't anticipate. This man is not trapped in her orbit. A peaceful departure communicates that your heart is open but not unguarded. It shows that your love is real but not unconditional at the expense of your dignity. It demonstrates that you value connection but never above your own well-being. This is what makes a woman step back and reassess. Because a woman expects resistance. She expects negotiation. She expects emotional collapse, pleading, or frustration. What she doesn't expect is a man who stands up quietly and walks away with his identity intact. That calmness is not silence, it is power, and power leaves an imprint. The man who can walk away peacefully becomes a mirror. He forces her to see the parts of the dynamic she avoided confronting. He shows her what she overlooked. He reveals the imbalance she ignored. And because he is not arguing, not pushing, not demanding clarity, she is left alone with the truth. Not his truth, but her own. And that truth often becomes the awakening she never saw coming. A woman respects the man who walks away peacefully because he shows her that he does not seek ownership, validation, or emotional negotiation. He seeks alignment, and if alignment is gone, he chooses himself. That choice is not abandonment. It is leadership. It is the refusal to participate in a dynamic that... Section 2. The collapse of entitlement requires him to shrink. A man who can walk away quietly becomes unforgettable, not because he punished her, but because he honored himself. Section number 2. The collapse of entitlement. When a man walks away loudly, she dismisses him. When he walks away angrily, she deflects blame. When he walks away emotionally, she justifies her actions. But when a man walks away peacefully, something far more significant happens. Her sense of entitlement collapses. A woman does not lose respect because you leave. She loses respect because of how you leave. If you leave in chaos, she labels you chaotic. If you leave in weakness, she labels you weak. If you leave in attachment, she labels you dependent. But if you leave with calm dignity, she labels you one thing and one thing only: a man she underestimated. Most women grow accustomed to the comfort provided by male pursuit. The steady messaging, the eagerness to resolve conflict, the willingness to reassure at every sign of discomfort, the emotional labor men perform silently out of fear of losing her. This creates an unconscious entitlement. The belief that you will always be available, always be willing, always be ready to invest, even when she is not investing equally. But when you walk away peacefully, the structure that held her entitlement together falls apart. Your absence becomes a shock to her system. Your silence becomes a disruption to her emotional routine. Your lack of pursuit becomes a mirror reflecting her own inconsistency. Walking away peacefully removes every excuse she had to avoid accountability. She cannot blame your tone because you didn't argue. She cannot blame your reaction because you didn't react. She cannot blame drama because you didn't create any. She cannot blame chaos because you left in calmness. Suddenly, the only variable left to evaluate is herself. This is why peaceful departure hits different. It forces introspection. It forces reflection. It forces her to ask questions she never wanted to face. Was I giving as much as he was? Did I take him for granted? These questions are not born from insecurity. They are born from clarity. Your calm exit shows her without words that you were not dependent on her choices. You were not desperate for her presence. You were not willing to suffer in order to stay close. Your value was not attached to her acceptance. Your identity was not built around her validation. The collapse of entitlement does not make her weaker. It makes her more aware. For the first time, she sees you without the filter of assumption. For the first time, she realizes your effort was never guaranteed. For the first time, she understands that losing you is not a theoretical possibility. It is a reality she caused. And that realization reshapes everything. The man she thought would always remain suddenly becomes the man she now fears losing forever. The man she assumed needed her becomes the man she now realizes valued her but valued himself more. The man she underestimated becomes the man she now respects. A peaceful departure does not just end the connection, it ends her entitlement. Section number 3, the silent mirror. When a man pulls away emotionally, but does so with peace instead of anger, with clarity instead of chaos, with maturity instead of manipulation, something powerful happens. His silence becomes a mirror she cannot avoid, cannot distort, and cannot explain away. This mirror reflects not who you are, but who she has been in the dynamic. And for many women, this is the section 3, the silent mirror effect. First time they see themselves without filters, without excuses, and without the comfort of your effort cushioning her behavior. Your calm distance reveals what your words never could. Because when a man tries to explain, she defends herself. When he tries to argue, she counters. When he tries to fix things, she withdraws. When he tries to prove his value, she takes it for granted. But when he becomes silent, she becomes aware. She feels the absence of your warmth, the absence of your consistency, the absence of your emotional labor. She begins to notice the imbalance she once dismissed. She starts seeing the ways she contributed to the disconnect. She starts feeling the emptiness left behind by the energy she once assumed would never fade. Your silence becomes a spotlight not on you, but on her behavior. A peaceful exit exposes patterns she ignored, the moments she was cold, the time she acted entitled, the dismissive tone she thought had no consequence, the inconsistencies she expected you to tolerate, the effort she withheld because she assumed you would wait forever, the emotional test she pushed too far because she misread your kindness as weakness. Your silence is not punishment, it is reflection. Reflection forces honesty, and honesty forces growth. This is why women often rethink deeply when a man leaves calmly. The absence of noise sharpens the truth. Without arguments, she cannot blame conflict. Without emotional explosions, she cannot blame your instability. Without desperate pursuit, she cannot assume your dependence. Without pressure, she cannot label you controlling. Your silence removes her defense mechanisms. Now she must face what she avoided, her own contribution. Your calm distance also creates comparison, something extremely influential in female psychology. She begins comparing you to other men she has known. She compares your dignity to their desperation, your silence to their emotional reactions, your restraint to their neediness, your self-respect to their self-abandonment. And in that comparison, she begins to see something she never recognized. You were the rare one, the one who did not chase validation, the one who did not collapse under pressure, the one who did not beg for attention, the one who did not lose himself to maintain connection, the one who walked away not because he stopped caring, but because he started caring about himself. This mirror shifts her perspective. Her assumptions dissolve. Her ego softens. Her defenses fall. She starts realizing what she misread. Your silence was not emptiness. It was strength. Your distance was not rejection. It was revelation. Your calmness was not coldness. It was clarity. The silent mirror does something no words ever could. It makes her see the truth, not through confrontation, but through contrast. And once she sees that truth, she cannot unsee it. She cannot forget it. She cannot ignore it. She can only respond to it. And that response is the beginning of either regret or respect. Section number 4, the emotional imprint. There is a kind of man a woman never forgets. Not the man who loved her the loudest, not the man who tried the hardest, not even the man who pursued her endlessly. The man she remembers is the man who left quietly, the man who walked away with dignity, the man who did not need drama to express truth or noise to declare value. A peaceful exit. Section 4, the emotional imprint. She can't forget leaves a psychological imprint that lingers far longer than arguments, explanations, or apologies ever could. When you leave quietly, she is left with the silence your presence used to fill. She sits in the emptiness that once belonged to your consistency, your patience, your care, and your effort. This emptiness is not punishment, it is consequence. A consequence she feels deeply because now she must face what she never realized before. Your presence was a gift, not an obligation. Women can forget the man who tried to convince them. They can forget the man who begged. They can forget the man who lost himself trying to keep her. But the man who leaves with a calm heart creates a wound and a memory, not because he hurt her, but because he revealed something. Essential. She misjudged the value of a rare man. Your peaceful departure becomes a story her mind replays when everything is quiet. It becomes the moment she rethinks when a new man fails to match your maturity. It becomes the comparison she makes unconsciously when another man reacts emotionally instead of standing firm. It becomes the reminder of what she lost when she sees you thriving in your silence. You become the man she measures others against, not because you were perfect, but because you left in a way most men never do. Emotional imprint is not created by intensity. It is created by contrast. You were giving, now you are gone. You were available, now you are unreachable. You cared deeply, now you care quietly. You loved sincerely, now you love yourself enough to walk away. This shift awakens the respect she never showed when you were still there. A peaceful exit has a psychological power louder than any confrontation. It strips away the layers of denial she used to hide behind. It exposes the truth she tried to avoid confronting. It forces her to feel the weight of what she dismissed. It transforms you into more than a memory. It turns you into the standard, a standard she seeks even if she never admits it. Women rarely remember the men who tried too hard. They remember the men who walked away when trying no longer made sense. Not because he was cold, but because he was clear. Not because he didn't care, but because he refused to care alone. Not because he wanted to hurt her, but because he wanted to heal himself. Your silence becomes the echo she hears when she meets a man who lacks your presence. Your calmness becomes the benchmark she subconsciously expects. Your maturity becomes the contrast she didn't appreciate until it was gone. Your absence becomes the lesson she can never unlearn. And this is the emotional imprint only a peaceful departure can create. The lasting understanding that you were not the man who didn't try. You were the man who finally stopped trying for someone who didn't try back. Section number 5, the fear of replacement. A woman may feel nothing when you chase her. She may feel nothing when you over-explain. She may feel nothing when you try to win her back. But when you leave quietly, when you stop trying, stop fighting, stop pushing, stop pleading, a new fear wakes up inside her. Not the fear of losing attention, not the fear of losing control. The fear of replacement, the fear that another woman, one who recognizes value faster than she did, will receive everything she took for granted. This is why peaceful departure hits so deeply. A man who leaves in anger seems unstable. A man who leaves emotionally seems reactive. A man who leaves loudly seems wounded, but a man who leaves calmly. Section 5. The fear of replacement seems ready for something better, and that terrifies her because she knows something very important that she will never admit out loud. Valuable men do not stay single for long. A man with discipline, emotional self-control, clarity, maturity, standards, and dignity is rare. And rare men are claimed quickly by women who understand their worth. Your peaceful exit signals to her that you are not broken. You are not bitter. You are not emotionally destroyed. You are simply done and ready. That readiness shakes her. It makes her imagine another woman receiving your calm presence, your effort, your protection, your stability, your affection, your guidance, and your leadership. It makes her imagine being replaced not by a random woman, but by someone who will adore the qualities she overlooked. This fear does not come from insecurity, it comes from awareness. A woman who observes a man walking away peacefully knows on a psychological level that he is already detached, he is already rebuilding, he is already choosing himself, and a man choosing himself is the same man another woman will choose with ease. This realization forces her to review her own behavior with brutal honesty. Did I waste something good? Did I push away a man who actually cared? Did I lose someone who was genuinely rare? Did I misjudge his value? Did I think he needed me when he didn't? Will another woman get the version of him I never appreciated? These questions sting, not because she regrets losing control, but because she regrets losing the possibility of being chosen by a man who actually had options. Women know the difference between disposable men and desirable men. And when you walk away calmly, she feels you shifting categories. Not a man trying to keep her, but a man another woman will be grateful to receive. Your peaceful departure does not just remove you from her life. It places you in the realm of what she could have had but lost. And the human mind values two things more than anything: what it cannot have and what it had but failed to protect. When you leave peacefully, you become both. Her fear of replacement is not jealousy. It is realization. Realization that you were never chasing her because she was special. You were chasing because you were giving her the chance to be special. She didn't take it. Someone else will. And that truth burns in silence briefly. Now that you've seen every layer of this truth, one reality stands above all the rest. Women do not respect the man who holds on the tightest. They respect the man who can let go the cleanest. Not because he is heartless, not because he is cold, and not because he lacks emotion, but because his peace, his identity, and his dignity are not negotiable. When a man reaches this level of self-control, he becomes a different presence entirely. The kind of presence a woman never forgets, even years after the connection ends. Walking away peacefully is not a sign that you stopped caring. It is a sign that you started caring about yourself. It is a declaration that your emotional world is not open to disrespect, inconsistency, or imbalance. It is the moment you choose alignment over attachment, clarity over confusion, and self-worth over desperation. And final truth: peace is the loudest goodbye. Nothing commands a woman's respect more than a man who refuses to lose himself for love. Women do not remember the man who begged. They do not remember the man who argued. They do not remember the man who tried to convince them with emotional chaos. But they always remember the man who left with calmness, the man who could have fought but didn't, the man who could have pleaded but wouldn't, the man who could have collapsed but chose to rise instead. A peaceful departure plants a seed inside her mind, a seed that grows into understanding, then reflection, then respect, and often eventually regret, because she realizes that you did not leave to hurt her. You left because you refused to betray yourself. You loved her enough to walk toward her, but you loved yourself enough to walk away when she stopped meeting you halfway. That duality is what makes your presence unforgettable. That self-respect is what makes your absence echo. Your silence becomes the lesson she never expected to learn. Your dignity becomes the mirror she never wanted to look into. Your calmness becomes the comparison she makes when other men fail to match your emotional strength. Your exit becomes the moment she replays when her ego quiets down and truth gets louder. The man who walks away peacefully becomes the standard. Not because he was perfect, but because he held himself to standards he expected the world to meet. He demanded nothing from her. He wasn't willing to give. He asked for nothing he couldn't offer in return. He walked away. Joined the community for real transformation, not out of pride, but out of principle. And that kind of man cannot be forgotten. The cold truth is this: women respect the man who can leave because he never needed to stay. He chose her until he chose himself. He invested until the investment became one-sided. He showed love until love required losing himself. And when that moment came, he walked away, not with rage, but with peace. And peace, brother, peace is the loudest goodbye a man can ever give. The man who walks away peacefully becomes the man she remembers forever. Not because he stayed, but because he had the strength to stop staying when his spirit knew it was time to go. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at the link below. Enroll once, grow forever.